The purpose of this video is to investigate interactions between humans and free-ranging primates in Africa. In order to assess the interactions, you should be aware of some visual communication signals in primates. Although this male baboon has approached humans in a confident manner with direct eye contact, his ambivalence is revealed by his nervous scratching, white eyelid flickers, which are a mild threat, and turning his gaze from side to side. We will focus on gaze direction, approach distance, body orientation, and facial gestures. Many interactions between humans and baboons in Africa are not positive. The following conversation was held with an older Kikuyu man named Peter. He had just told us that he often hunted baboons. When you hunt them, what do you do with them? Eat them?
No, we don't eat them.
No, I was wondering why you hunted them then.
Why do you hunt them, Peter?
Just for fun. In the city park, we have got thousands and thousands of them.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, in the city park. It is very close in town. But there are many.
Like in the Uhuru Park?
Not Uhuru Park, city park. It is about 7 kilometers. Even if they come inside the car.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
If you don't close the car.
You should close it.
Yeah, it will come and it will take anything, everything.
Everything. Yeah, they're terrible.
Terrible.
So they're wild?
No.
Well, I mean,
Even you
people
can
feed them?
even you can touch them, no problem.
Yeah?
Touch them, do whatever you want, no problem.
Those must be the ones I heard about. Peter may have been right about baboons in Nairobi City Park, but when I went there, I saw only blue monkeys, which are about 1/3 to 1/4 the size of baboons. Baboons are actually quite bold and will walk right through campgrounds, or if no one is there to prevent them, will rip tents open with their long canine teeth, especially if there is food inside. We saw them sitting by train stations and border crossings where people congregate and discard litter, and they frequently forage in camp refuse pits, as these ones are. They are rather like raccoons, the size of German shepherds. This particular interaction reveals some reluctance by the human involved to confront the baboons directly, especially since there is a whole troop present. I think that their initial refusal to yield the road to the car has to do with the presence of a mother with her newborn infant, who is sitting by the black and white posts and is the focus of the other animals who approach her. The baboon sitting in the road had just interacted with the mother and so may be feeling quite protective towards her. Initially, the car driver waves a newspaper out the window in an effort to get the baboons to move out of the way, but they do not go. Other baboons are in the near vicinity, which may give them confidence. Remember that 4 or 5 male baboons can kill a leopard. However, the one in front of the car shows his ambivalence by scratching. The door on the passenger side of the car opens, but the occupant doesn't get out to confront the animals. Eventually, after looking repeatedly out the window, the driver opens his door, gets out, and steps toward the baboon, but keeps the car door between them. He waves his newspaper and stamps his foot at the baboon, who scratches nervously but holds his ground. The man pulls back when the baboon orients toward him with a slight head bob threat and retreats to the car as the baboon rises and slowly moves out of the vehicle's path. These are the blue monkeys, Cercopithecus mitis, who live in Nairobi City Park. They are very habituated to people and are frequently fed by them. It is clear that some humans just ignore their presence, and this can be mutual. These camera-wielding tourists crouch down, lowering their height differential in an acceptable way, and the animals approach them confidently, in spite of the camera, whose lens could be considered a threat. This contrasts with the interaction outcome for a man with a little boy. He picks up a piece of food as the monkey approaches, but leans his body forward, hand elevated and staring at the monkey, who quickly stops its approach and turns away. There's a more successful outcome for a man who is feeding the monkeys close to me. He is sitting down and reaches out with his hand low and the food easily available. As a result, several monkeys approach, get up on the bench to reduce the height difference, and take the food. These are juvenile animals who are frequently the boldest when it comes to approaching strangers. These young monkeys are actually interacting quite cooperatively. They each reach for the food, but do not try to take it from each other. The human is seated, allowing the monkeys to approach and move away to maintain a distance comfortable for themselves. Their nervousness is evident in their quick movements and darting glances toward and away from the food. The use of the bench as a visual shield to modify eye contact is a device frequently used by monkeys to reduce apparent proximity and thus anxiety level. After some successful interactions, the man begins to tease the youngsters by holding the food farther out of reach. However, he does not withhold it very long, which means that their frustration level doesn't get too high. However, eventually they do pull back with a few eyelid flickers, which are mild threats, and occasional stares. As he withholds food longer and makes them jump higher and higher, several of them refuse to interact with him. Notice that unlike the man with the boy, he does not bend his upper body toward them, which would constitute a threat. This little girl is frightened by the quick, close approach of the male blue monkey, who comes into her visual field from the side when she does not expect it. She jumped away from him, past her mother, who does not show a startled response and remains oriented towards the monkeys. Here you see the interaction again in 1/5 time. The girl and her mother are focused on feeding the female carrying an infant, who is on her hind legs in front of them. Then the male appears unexpectedly at the girl's side. He does not threaten the girl, but his proximity frightens her to retreat to her mother's shadow, a term used to mean that she puts her mother between herself and the danger. Her mother looks toward the retreating child, encouraging her attention to the monkeys with an arm gesture. Emboldened by her mother's lack of fear, the girl then begins to approach the monkeys as she would a domesticate or pet, and makes incipient patting motions. This is not actually an appropriate response to wild monkeys, but is understandable in a child from the city. In spite of what Peter said about touching monkeys in the city park, I saw no attempts by adult humans to do so, although several monkeys reached out to humans for food. The girl and the blue monkey male alternate their gaze toward and away from each other. The girl approaches with very short steps. The male looks away from her, and the girl shifts her attention to the female with the infant beside her, perhaps seeing her as less threatening or more approachable. The girl reaches out with that patting gesture, not realizing that an extended arm over the monkey's head level is likely to be interpreted as a threat by them. I want to contrast the previous human approaches with the proximity, orientation, gaze direction, and body movement of Africans who are trained in dealing with primates, as are the guards in the Zairian gorilla reserve. This gorilla is very calm in their presence because they do not approach closely, orient directly, or look straight at the gorillas, or raise their arms toward them.
Her name is Lemchok.
Thank you.
Up here is Minsos, up the tree.
Minsos is much higher than his raised arm, but responds to the camera lens by dropping twigs and leaves on it.